I'm so happy you guys came. I wanted to talk about my dogs because I wrote a story about that. So, before we get started, that's my book. It's called Charlie and Sophie's Great Escape. So this story is about Charlie and Sophie. They were two dogs. We adopted them from a rescue. And they're border collies. As you know, puppies, just like kids, are very curious and full of energy, and they love to learn. Just like you guys, you came to learn something new. So we had lots of fun exploring the woods and fields all around our house. This is Charlie. Very curious. He wanted to be first in everything. So if we were going out for a walk, he'd be right there. He wanted to be first out the door, or if I was going to give a treat, he wanted to be first. He usually listens well and follows instructions. But he likes to be near Sophie. She's his sister, and she makes him feel more comfortable when he's with her. That's Sophie. She is very strong, very independent. Yes?
I have a friend named Sophia.
Yeah, I like that name, Sophie, Sophia. I call her Sophia sometimes. Oh, hi. Nice to see you guys. Hi. Hi. Have a seat, Sophia. Grab a seat.
Oh, there you go.
Sit anywhere you want. You can come closer. You don't have to all be in a line. You okay? You're gonna sit with your brother? Okay, that's nice. Get all cozy. So we just started. So this book, Charlie and Sophie's Great Escape, is about my two dogs. And we were just introducing our dogs. I can go back. So that's Charlie. He was very, very curious. He liked to be first in everything. And usually he listened well and followed his instructions. But he liked to be close to Sophie, his sister. That's Sophie. Very independent. And she was, wherever she was, all the other dogs knew somehow that she was the leader. They would listen to her. She's a good problem solver. And she was very protective of her brother Charlie. She acted like his older sister. So the story I wrote is actually based on something real that happened near our house. So, are you ready to listen, to read? Now, if you can't see, just come closer, okay? So, Charlie and Sophie couldn't wait to go outside. The rain had stopped and the sun was out. Tail wagging with excitement, Charlie circled Nicky and bumped his chin as Nicky bent down to put on his boots. See? Nicky whistled for Sophie. It's time for a walk. Let's go. The soft, wet grass tickled their legs as Sophie bent to nibble on just a soft, green stalk of grass. But Charlie ran on ahead. He always wanted to be first on the trail. He lifted his head and sniffed, trying to catch the scent of some other animals that had maybe gone this way. Then Charlie heard Nicky exclaim, "Oh, I forgot my hat. Wait here, I'll be right back." Charlie looked up impatiently to see the boy running back to the house. Adventure was right around the corner, and Charlie didn't want to make another mistake. Bark, bark, bark! He barked at Sophie, and they both ran off into the woods. trail was muddy and smelled of earthworms and wet leaves. Charlie bent to smell a turkey feather he found lying on the trail. Then he caught another smell. A fox had also been here. A deep chorus of bullfrogs echoed up from the beaver pond, waking up the woods with musical honks and croaks. Juggarum, juggarum. Have you ever heard bullfrogs in the woods? Got a very big sound, just echoes all through the woods. Charlie and Sophie stopped to listen. Somewhere overhead, a chickadee called. Another answer floated back on the breeze. You said, that's right. It's a little chickadee. Puppy, yeah. Suddenly, Sophie stopped and stared. There was a big brown deer hiding in the trees. Look. They watched the deer as it pulled down a branch and munched some leaves. Its ears were flicking back and forth. It was just eating quietly. Charlie moved closer to investigate, but he stepped on a twig and snapped. The deer barked a startled crack and bounded deeper into the woods. Its tail was swishing in her arm. It didn't want to be near those dogs. Sophie and Charlie took off on a wild deer chase. Yipping and barking, they flew after the deer. They skidded around trees, jumped over boulders, and splashed through muddy puddles. They would not let that deer get away. See them chasing? Running and running? They ran and ran, but the deer was faster and stronger. It jumped over a big stone wall and disappeared. Poor Charlie and Sophie finally gave up the chase, panting hard. Tired and thirsty, they needed a drink. They're all tired out from running and running, but they didn't catch the deer. Sophie raised her nose and took a deep breath. She smelled a cool, mossy scent, mud and rotting leaves. It made her think of the beaver pond. She followed the scent, hoping to find a drink of water. Charlie trotted after her. At the pond, Sophie noticed a little turtle was sitting on a log sunning itself. She got close and nudged it with her nose, and it slipped into the water, plop. Then she dipped her head and lapped noisily. She was very thirsty. All that running and chasing and barking. Suddenly, a smell caught Charlie's nose. He sniffed. It was a bird smell, strong and strange. Very quietly, he crept closer, and peeking through all these tall grasses, he saw a nest with 5 big eggs. The strange smell was very strong here in the nest. Then suddenly there was a flapping of giant wings and honk. Who's this? Who came? Huh? A big goose. Yes. Charlie jumped back in surprise. Water splashed and grasses tore, and see, the huge bird chased after Charlie. Its long neck and big, broad beak snapped forward and nipped his ear. The goose screeched furiously as it chased Charlie away from its nest. Honk, honk. They're very loud. Have you heard geese? No? You have to focus next time. Maybe
Yeah,
you will.
Yeah, I think I have actually. They all go on banana pond.
Yes, and sometimes in the fall, if you look out in the sky, you can see those big V's. All the geese flying south for the winter. Sophie and Charlie dove into the water to try to get away. Now the angry honks and scared barks and all the loud splashes attracted other geese that had been protecting nests nearby. All these giant big birds started gliding towards the terrified dogs. See them all rushing, trying to get away, and being chased by all these birds, big geese. Spluttering and gasping, Sophie and Charlie pawed at the slimy ground, trying to escape. Squelching through stinky black mud, they clawed their way up the bank and started running. Where was Nicky? Where was home? Now suddenly they remembered that they're all by themselves because they ran away. They slowed to catch their breath. Panting, they stopped to listen. Now all was quiet. They started walking, sniffing the ground, looking for signs to help them find their way home. See them looking? Trying to find where was the path? How could they get back home? The woods were getting dark and gloomy. Storm clouds hid the sun and the dogs shivered. A big raindrop landed on Charlie's head and he whined. Well, Sophie nudged him gently and licked his ear. They had to keep searching. Scrambling over a pile of boulders, they hurried along a narrow path. Climbing onto a stone wall, Charlie tried to find a better view to see what was on the other side. Suddenly, he realized where he was. Do you remember where this stone wall was before?
Yeah.
Where?
It was where they were chasing the deer.
That's right, you remember. So this was what he remembered. This was the stone wall where the deer had jumped over when he escaped. And the trail leading home was on the other side of the stone wall. Faint smell of wood smoke tickled their noses. From far away, a voice was calling, Charlie, Sophie, where are you? It was Nicky. The dog started running, following his voice. See them running? Charlie burst from the woods and saw their farmhouse across the field. And he saw Nicky. His ears back and legs pumping, Charlie flew towards him. Nicky turned just in time as Charlie launched himself into the boy's arms. They all fell down in a muddy, laughing heap. Sophie ran circles around them both, barking happily, and Charlie licked Nicky's face. Curled up in front of the wood stove, Charlie and Sophie fell into a deep sleep. Their great escape was over. They were home. The end. So what did you think of the story? What do you think Charlie and Sophie learned from their adventure?
Don't run away.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And don't chase the big stone wall.
Well, they didn't climb the wall. They did have fun chasing, but they didn't catch anything, right?
Yeah.
All right, so this is a tricky question.
Or don't go into a nest.
That's true, but
That's
he
not
didn't know.
yours.
He was just curious, right? He just wanted to see what's that weird smell. He didn't know that big mama goose would come around the bend and scare him. But next time, what do you think? That's true. So he learned a lesson for next time, right? Yeah, to stay away from eggs and nests whenever possible.
Except if it is.
Dog egg.
Yeah, dog eggs. So this is a tricky question. Why did the deer, who was big and brown and strong, why did he run away from these little dogs?
Because he didn't want to see them.
Yes. Yes.
Because he stepped on the twig and it might have scared him.
That's true. It was a big sound. That's true, because they were noisy, right? They were barking and they were small and they were running, and he didn't want to have anything to do with these little dogs.
My grandpa actually hunts deer.
That's another thing. So he may have bad memories. Something that he might have learned, that you stay away from dogs and people, right? Be quiet somewhere. He was happy just eating his leaves, and then these two dogs came. So if the deer ran away, why do you think the goose didn't fly away? Why did it chase the dogs? I mean, it was a bird, but it wasn't as big as a deer. Why do you think that was?
Because the goose was just trying to be protective of its eggs.
That's right. So it was her eggs, her babies, and she didn't want any of those dogs to be, to maybe break those eggs, right? So that's good. All right, so one last question. How did the dogs explore the woods? You know how when they ran off and they were exploring, and then later they had to try to find their way home? How do you think they did that?
Because they picked up the scent.
That's true. Anything else? You were going to say something?
As my baby sister.
Yes? Tell me. What did the dogs do you think, in the woods? What were they using? He's a big dog. He's bigger than you. So they were using their eyes, right, to look for signs, to find their way home.
Yeah.
They were using their noses a lot.
And they were using their ears.
And their ears.
And the memory.
That's right. That's excellent. Yes, because they remembered, Charlie remembered that the wall was there. Yes, okay, well, thank you. Do you have anything to ask about Charlie or Sophie?
I have a dog that's 11.
Yes?
Is Nikki a made-up character?
We have 3 sons, but since this is my first book, I didn't want to name any of them. One of them was very, very good with the dogs and always took them out and all that, but he's my middle son, so then they would have been why. So yeah, Nikki, the name is made up.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he was there. So, all right, well, thank you. I have a little maze. If you want to do a maze activity, you can look at the books more, you can pet my stuffed animal. I couldn't bring my real dog. So, well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes.